I can testify that there's hundreds of solutions right now as we are talking that is being implemented in the refugee camps. But if you go, you can't see them because every partner is doing what they know, what they think is good.
Uganda's refugee crisis is complex. Let's unravel it together. Welcome to the Refugee Response Lens Podcast, a podcast fully dedicated to the Uganda refugee response. Join me and our guests as we dissect the critical issues shaping programming and policy. With in-depth discussions and expert insights, we'll explore what works and what doesn't, and how we can build a better future for refugees in Uganda. The Refugee Response Lens Podcast is brought to you by ULAN with support from FCDO UKAID.
Uganda hosts the largest population of refugees in Africa. Currently, we have about 1.7 million refugees. Utilization of biomass energy sources has led to increased climate change, degradation of the environment, and this has had an effect not just on the environment, but also on the lives and the well-being of refugees. My name is Kulain Ankunda. You're welcome to the Refugee Response Lens Podcast. For this episode, we're going to focus on topics like the impact of climate change on the refugees and host communities, the barriers to accessing and adopting clean energy solutions, the benefits of clean energy, including improved health, economic opportunities, environmental sustainability, and finally, innovative practices, best solutions around accessing clean energy. With me on this podcast are three guests. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Would you please go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Thank you, Kulain. My name is Violet Kanyiginya. I'm the head of the Food Security, Agribusiness and Environment Conservation at KRC Uganda. KRC is Kabarole Research and Resource Center. We have the headquarters in Fort Portal but operate countrywide.
Welcome, Violet.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kulain. My name is Solomon Pagavonirano. I'm a refugee from DRC. Currently, I'm the executive director of Living Green. It's a refugee-led organization tackling climate change and energy in Chakatu refugee settlement. I'm also serving as the head of programs at CRON, which is Chakatu refugee-led organization network. Thank you.
You're welcome, Solomon.
Thank you so much, my colleague. My name is Irene Helen. I'm happy to be here today. I work as a partnership officer of Last Mile Climate. We are an international organization with headquarters in Denmark, but we are majorly in East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. I'm happy to be part of this discussion today because it's related to the work we do in Uganda, Kenya, and Rwanda. Thank you.
You're welcome, Irene. So let's get straight into it. Violet, my first question is for you. Why should we care about the energy sources that are being used currently in the refugee response? Is it really a crucial issue?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Kulain. I really agree that it's a critical issue that we need to discuss about. I want to first emphasize that the right to clean, safe, and reliable energy is a right to all the refugees. But where is the problem now? What type of energy sources are they using? Research shows that over 90% of these refugee households, they are still using the traditional sources of energy, including cooking energy. That is, they use firewood, they use charcoal for cooking. And this has a number of issues around them. You have indoor pollution. Cases of respiratory diseases are on the rise. And who are the targets? Who is involved in cooking? The women, the girls. Yeah. Secondly, where do they get this firewood? Who collects this firewood? Again, the women, the girls. And where do they collect this firewood? They move distances, long distances to go and pick this firewood. So they are exposed to a number of sexual exploitation along the way. Yeah, recently when I was in Chakatu, I met a group of them, women and young girls, and they told me they were going to collect firewood from Mubende. You can just imagine. Because this is a scarce resource and the competition is rising because of the population increase. The number of refugees that we had many years ago is not the same. And the challenge here is that you cannot predict the population of refugees. First, you cannot predict the social unrest around our neighboring countries. So UBOS normally projects the population of the country, but for refugees it's still a challenge. Then the issues of environmental degradation, if I have to start speaking about that, it can take for a whole day. The more demand you have for these fuel wood resources, the more the number of trees that will be cut down to meet the needs of these energy sources. And this escalates into different issues. You have a lot of soil erosion happening, you have increased disasters happening, you have a lot of biodiversity loss. We are losing a lot of fauna and flora in this whole process. So I can say that access to clean energy is not just a practical need, it is a critical need. And that's why we need to talk about it.
Thank you so much, Violet, for that answer. Over to you, Solomon. Violet has talked about how the increased numbers of refugees are affecting the environment, affecting access to energy. Can you share an experience around that? What are your thoughts around that?
Thank you so much, Colleen. Yeah, increasing the number of refugees in Uganda has been evident that it is affecting the refugees' access to clean energy. Because I can say energy generally, because first of all, as we said, 90% of the refugees, we are using the biomass as our main source of energy. So as the refugee number keeps increasing, you find that the accessibility to the firewood also becomes a challenge. One, when we come, we depend on the natural resources. We cut down the trees for shelter, for firewood, and also for farming purposes. So as the number increases, the clearance of the land keeps increasing. What to do? If you have been collecting firewood from the nearby areas, now the distance starts increasing. For example, of Chakatu, the area under where we used to collect firewood now, it is occupied by houses. Now the only available forest where we collect the trees is near Kabamba Army Barracks, so which is around 15 to 18 kilometers from the settlement. And as she said, mainly it is the women who go there to collect the firewood and the girls. So we have had a number of women being sexually assaulted, others beaten. You find ladies who are supposed to go to schools are missing out because they are going to collect firewood. So the increase in the number of refugees is directly impacting the limited access to energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Solomon. And Irene, what's your view on some of these challenges with relation to access to energy, the climate change, the impacts?
Thank you, Colleen. I think these challenges are real. I've witnessed a family in Kiriandongo cooking using plastic bottles, leave alone charcoal and firewood. That's what I wanted to supplement on our point. So demand for energy in the displacement community and host community, because when we are speaking about refugee, we should not leave out the host community. They're like the same community, okay, sharing resources and everything. So you find child-headed families in most of the camps, they cook using plastic bottles because these are unaccompanied children. They don't have their parents. They ran without elder brothers or sisters. So these problems are really critical. As somebody who is born and raised as a refugee, witnessed our neighbor who lost one of her feet due to rape. She was raped in a forest called Nyamotende. That was the only forest supporting over 100,000 refugees in Kiriandong refugee settlement. And it's now bare. There are no trees there.
Thank you so much, Irene. That's an interesting story. So we've had a bit of effort around raising awareness on these clean energy solutions or the challenges that are currently being faced. There's a recent survey that ULAN conducted that shows that 70% of refugee households and the host communities believe that some stoves are more efficient than others. They still have, the mud stoves or the clay stoves. Violet, can you tell us more about the beliefs that are preventing some of the adoption of the clean energy solutions?
Yes, Kulain, it's true that there is still a struggle to adopt these clean energy sources. First, I'll talk about the cultural attachment to these traditional cooking methods. I have heard people talk about the taste of food cooked by the firewood compared to that
Different.
food cooked
Especially
by the
the
gas.
men.
Exactly. So they will tell you it's completely different and tastes better. So someone told me if you prepare water for bathing using firewood, you feel nice after that bath and everything. So then secondly, our grandparents used these open fires to cook food, but also they used these same spaces to discuss different issues around as a family. So
was a
they
social
gather
thing.
around and then prepare the food as they are talking, as they are telling stories. The elders are telling tales and folklore to the children. So, and now here you come with your biogas and you constrain it to a certain space, and
the
someone
kitchen.
cooks. If they are lucky, there will be a seat for one person, but mainly it will push away this cultural attachment, and people are not ready maybe to adopt quickly to that. Yeah. Also believing that these clean energy sources are for a different class of people. Someone saying, how
For the
can I
wealthy.
own such gas in my hut? Yeah, you know, my small house made out of mud, and then those ones are for big houses with tiles and everything, but that's not for me. So that is a belief that these energy sources are for a certain class of people. Yeah.
I hear you. So there's a bit of the social aspect to the former ways of cooking, and then also the perception as to who is supposed to use the clean energy solutions.
She mentioned about one of the barriers that is hindering the access to clean energy. I may have another point that I wanted to add before I answer that one. You see, the challenge is I'm a refugee, and whatever you are discussing, I'm experiencing it. One of the main challenges that I identify in the settlement is the affordability and accessibility of the alternative source of energy. You see, for example, the biomass, even if we are saying that now access to them, you walk distance, but at least you are offering your energy to go there and collect them.
For free.
It's free. So it is cheaper than buying.
Yeah.
So given the economic status of refugees, they still see moving long distances looking for this biomass. It is much cheaper than using money to do what? To access the alternative. Now, how can refugees be involved? You see, the problem is one, some of the solutions that come to address refugee problems, I don't know, I can say, they are designed somewhere, then they are brought to refugees. So you find for us, what we call our solutions are not solutions considered by the people who are coming to help. So we have the solutions, but they don't take them. So then you bring the solution for you think can work, and we don't take them. It's because when members are designing the solution for us, we are not involved. But by involving us from the start to the end, we are going to do what? To adopt. Let our ideas be also captured during the implementation. And another thing is, when you bring a solution, for example in Chaka, and the person who is coming either to advocate for that solution is coming from far, not even from the host community. We cannot own such a project. But if you involve the refugees as the advocates, train them to advocate. Those people you have trained, let them first even adopt the solution you are bringing so that they can be able to do what? To spread the news. I've seen in Chaka, a number of organizations have come, they have brought people who are training people in either accessing, you can make briquettes, do this and that, but you go to their homes, they are not using them. How can you preach what you are not practicing? So we need to be involved. And another thing, the solutions coming to us, don't be looking at refugees as just beneficiaries. Yeah, we should be considered as partners who are working together to solve a problem. Yes, thank you.
Do you have an example where a refugee response actor has partnered with the refugee or host community to implement a solution that's now working, maybe?
Yes, right now, you see, as we are talking as a challenge of accessibility and affordability, is because some of the solutions come and we consider them to be expensive. Here I'm going to compare like the briquettes, which are relatively cheaper than the solar. So briquettes, when they reach in Chaka, you find a kilo of briquette goes to 1,000 or 1,200. So my first point was, a refugee may see spending 1,000, I rather walk and collect firewood. I use that 1,000 either to buy mokene and I eat. So, but how can we do it cheaper? Like Living Green, currently we are working with Adapt Plus, where we are producing the briquettes. But we are involving the what? The local communities, the refugees, in collecting the wastes. Because once we involve them in collecting the wastes and bring to our energy resource, the production cost reduces. So if a kilo of briquettes has been going to 1,000, someone can access it at 700. Are you seeing? So people are adopting. And in some ways, they are saying you are giving them jobs. So they love the what? The project. And using feedback methods, interaction with refugees, whatever solution we come up with, we generate it together with them. So we started with briquettes. And at first they were saying the briquettes take long to light. So I rather use charcoal or, yes. So we designed a stove with a solar and a propeller attached to it, so that in less than a minute, the briquettes can light compared to the what? To charcoal and firewood. Now they are adopting. So still, we have now partnered with a private company. It's called Intellisys Uganda. Now producing solar induction cookers. However, the price is still high. We are saying that some of them are not going to do what? To afford. It's where now we are looking for the partners who can come in so that the production cost is lowered and the refugees can have access to them. So that's a very good success story I have.
It really is. Thank you, Solomon. Irene, we recently published a research, as you learn. It was titled Knowledge, Attitudes, and Practices on Energy in the Settlements. And so in this research, we saw that a number of things can be done. You know, in addition to partnering with the refugee community, we also had recommendations to increase awareness around clean energy solutions and climate change, community mobilization, innovative financing, etc. Could you share, maybe in addition to some of these recommendations, anything else that you've seen that works on promoting of these clean energy solutions?
There are so many approaches that international organizations, local organizations are bringing on board to make sure that there's access to clean energy. One, there's localization, where now international partners are really leaving out the issue of implementation, because it's quite expensive for international organization to do an implementation. Practical examples. If you give money to an international partner, there's cost of insurance, there's cost of transport, renting fully furnished apartment. You see these costs. There's cost of a car, security, and a local organization does not need that. So localization is really, really doing great in supporting access to clean energy. It's making sure that local organizations, refugee-led organizations are empowered, because these are people on front line. And these are people who need little resources to make sure things are done. For example, Last Mile Climate, the organization that I work for, we have created a platform called Climate Action Partnership. This is just a platform where any organization can join, including because it focuses on building public-private partnership. Because let me tell you, energy, it's a big thing that no one sector can handle it alone. And that's why Solco focused to bring on board private organization, the government, refugee-led organization, INGOs, so that if we are all together, then we think of who can mobilize resources, who can implement. Now, like for us, Last Mile Climate, we are focusing on mobilizing resources to give implementing partners. And now we have secured 2 million euro from IKEA Foundation, and 600,000 is going to go to refugee-led organizations to support the mobilization and demand activation. You see, and Mexico, they're mobilizing to support the suppliers side to make sure that they're built, the subsidy. You just said solar e-cookers, the one they're producing is very expensive. It's very expensive. So we really need subsidies to support this product so that there's uptake within the refugee setting. So these are few examples that I can give, and also the World Bank project. Right now, they are providing subsidies. There's also UECCC. They also have subsidies that is supporting all these products that we are trying to do.
Thank you so much. And now that we've talked a little bit about energy, there's of course an overlap between energy and climate. But when you think about the challenges that are faced around climate in general, because of climate change, would you say the challenges are similar to what we've just discussed? And this is to any of us, to what we've just discussed, and even the solutions, are they also similar to what we are doing to address the access to clean energy solutions?
We cannot discuss about clean energy and leave alone climate change, because clean energy demand for biomass cause climate change. If you see last year what happened in Moyo, there was floods that happened. Refugees, so many refugees were displaced due to climate change. And as a South Sudanese, I must testify that now my country does not have war. Instead, we have climate crisis. Just last week, 70,000 South Sudanese in Upper Nile were displaced by floods. Where are they going? Is it not Uganda? They're entering in Uganda. So this is a very good topic to discuss sincerely. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Okay, Solomon or Violet, would you like to add to that?
Yeah. What pains me is the rate of deforestation is not balancing with the rate of afforestation.
Yeah.
But even if it was to try to be close, how many years would afforestation take to actually catch up with the normal functioning of the lost forest cover? So it is a very critical issue that needs to be addressed. The disasters she's talking about, the cutting down of trees is related to the number of increasing disasters that you are talking about. First of all, if you remove trees from a landscape, if it is a hilly terrain, it means that you are leading to slope instability, and slope instability results in landslides. And also, if you remove vegetation cover, you leave the soil bare, and you reduce the function of the soil to hold water and also to control the runoff. So that's why you have a lot of flooding happening. And when it comes to the refugee settlements, the vulnerability is very high. The refugee settlements are vulnerable socially and also physically. What do I mean? Social vulnerability comes in with the income status. The income status of the refugees is low. It means that if a disaster has happened, they have less capacity to cope. Because the social structures are not there, the support structures are not there, but also the recovery mechanisms are very difficult for them in their setting. Then also the issue of physical vulnerability. When physically vulnerable means that the structures where they are living. They are weak. Look at the type of housing the refugees that live in. They are weak structures. They cannot withstand a landslide. They cannot withstand a flood because of their setting. So that's why they are very vulnerable. But also look at how the planning is done in the refugee settlements. You will not find maybe clear waterways with culverts, you'll not find paved roads, and you'll not find infrastructure which can withstand, which can resist the climate disasters. Then you look at their population and how they are crowded. So all these factors, they make the refugee settlements very vulnerable to natural disasters as compared to the usual Ugandans.
Violet, have you seen any practices which are using traditional knowledge or just community-based adaptations that have spoken into or that have been able to address some of these challenges?
Yes, traditional knowledge is very, very important in disaster risk reduction. Even the current UN Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction actually highlights traditional indigenous knowledge as one of the key aspects to reduce the risks of disasters. So why? The local communities, they have lived with their environment, they interact with their environment, and they have stayed there for decades. Their children have grown up there, so they know a lot about their environment. And they can actually provide information which can reduce disasters. Right. For instance, I have used this in traditional knowledge as part of my PhD research. And I have actually interacted with the elderly citizens to understand how the climate disasters are related to how the landscape has been changing over the 80 years. Wow. And I have got incredible results out of this. You find that they tell you we started experiencing floods or landslides in the 1990s when the wetland was removed. Or maybe we used to have natural tree species before, and it was mandatory for every home to plant 18 trees, natural tree species. And these tree species, normally, they protected the landscape from soil erosion, they protected the landscape from disasters, but they also added soil fertility for farming. But when these trees were cut down, we started seeing landslides, we started seeing floods increasing, we started losing productivity. Then also, my colleagues also did a research in the Rwenzori. Rwenzori is very prone for flash floods, very disastrous, and actually applied the indigenous knowledge to understand what is causing these flash floods and got very good information. These people, they told him about the seasonalities, when floods are most likely to happen. So they actually worked like models, these predicting models that predict these disasters. So they tell him, normally at the end of May, you experience a serious flood. At the beginning of a planting season, you have this and this. And all this information, when it is integrated with scientific methods, you actually get very concrete results that can lead to devising early warning systems. And that's what we need. An early warning system is the one that is crucial for disaster risk reduction. So the traditional knowledge is not only important for climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction, but it's also crucial in informing farming practices. At KRC Uganda, we are using an approach called the participatory action research. But I wanted to stress that participatory action research is part of also traditional knowledge for disaster risk reduction, but also in farming and also informing on the suitable energy sources. As Solomon mentioned, imposing these innovations onto the people without their participation can hinder the ownership and sustainability.
Thank you, Violet. Solomon, Violet has mentioned combining the traditional knowledge with scientific methods, and it made me think about the propeller, the stove with a propeller. But have you seen anything additional ways in which that traditional knowledge has been used to address climate change, to address access to clean energy, where they've used community-based approaches or community-based solutions?
So we have seen a number of refugees trying to bring innovations, saying, if I'm using 3 stone stoves, remember you have to put a firewood in the 3 watt areas. But now they are saying, this one consumes a lot of fire. What if I bring maybe those stones I put near the wall of the house? At least the firewood are going to go in one direction, and I can. So, such innovation. And sometimes when you come up with the ideas, you have to build on ground. In fact, to build something in relation to what you are seeing. Involve them and say, now, since you are using this, what if we do this? Can't it bring a solution? So adaptation also to energy, the knowledge. We have been leaving out the charcoal sellers. Are you seeing? When we are promoting clean energy, we don't involve them. For them, they are selling its business. Now for you are bringing solar, you are bringing briquettes, you are not involving them. What they do is competition. So they will never talk well about the solutions. And are the people who already have clients. Clients trust them. So the best thing to do, like what we are doing, we are involving them. So they are our sellers. Are you seeing?
Yeah.
We give you a commission. Now you sell. At this time, you don't need to have a capital. Since for you have the customer base, we are giving you. If you sell a briquette at maybe 1,000, 200 is yours, and they give us the 800. So in so doing, we are working together. They are not seeing us as competitors, but collaborators.
Wow, thank you, Solomon. I like that you've mentioned the aspect of business and making of money. What, Irene, I'm hoping you can speak to the different actors that have come up and tried to create solutions around climate change, access to clean energy. Could you speak to some of the policies, for example, that government has come up with or that different leadership structures have come up with? But I also would like you to touch on what you've seen in terms of, maybe we can call them private sector actors, but at that local level, what are some of the roles that these two actors are playing?
Thank you. Talking about actors, I think most time we have forgotten the roles of private sector. These people play very great roles. For example, let's talk about the solar e-cookers. If you go to BDBD, because we've done a pilot in BDBD, some people use it for business. You bring your phone because the same system cook, provide light, and also charging. So some youths just bought them for charging. They charge phones, they're given money, and they are making the uptake to go up. So private sector play a very great role in increasing access to clean energy. However, there are gaps in policy. That does not bring humanitarian organization, the local organization, refugee-led organization, and private sector together. And that's why I discuss about Solco here, because Solco look at that solutions of bringing all these stakeholders together. I can testify that there's hundreds of solutions right now as we are talking that is being implemented in the refugee camps. But if you go, you can't see them because every partner is doing what they know, what they think is good. This one is doing briquettes, the solar e-cookers. There's also grid now in Kiriandongo and Bidibidi. They are now connecting the refugees to the grid. So here we are talking about off-grid. There's grid going on. You see that disconnection. He talked about co-creation, lack of co-creation. Because first we need to do awareness to let people know the importance of these policies. Why is it there? It's not a matter of arresting here and there. You arrest few days, 1 week, everything is off. Everything stops because people are not part of that. So all these stakeholders are very important. And refugee-led organizations are doing great work, I'm telling you. And I am one who supports direct funding for refugee-led organizations. I met one refugee-led organization in Rhino that they're innovating their own solar e-cookers. They buy the solar panels and then they buy the metals, everything. They innovate and they don't have support. They don't have even single coin. I went to BDBD, I think last 2 weeks. I met with 64 refugee-led organizations, CBIs, CBOs. Idea. Do you know there are refugees who are renting 50 acres of land to plant trees?
Nice.
They are renting them to plant trees and they don't have funding. So this is the right time we should start thinking of carbon credit. Because carbon credit is one way of increasing uptake of renewable energy in rural areas. Refugee community and the host community. I would say that all stakeholders are doing great work, but only that the effort is not jointly approached. So we have to jointly put together our efforts. As now, we are not implementing partners. We are only facilitating implementing partners to do the work. Imagine if now ULAN come in and say, for us, we don't implement, but we have done research. We know how much energy demand is there in a refugee household per day. You need that data, my dear, to start bringing these solutions. Because if you don't have data, and then you don't know what to do.
I couldn't agree more. You know, ULAN is all about using evidence to change the policies, to change the practice. But I like that you've touched on the roles that different actors can play. You know, even the collaboration with local partners, with private sector actors. Violet, do you have anything to add in regards to how private sector actors can also be involved in creating these solutions or implementing these solutions?
Yeah, thank you. Before I can add to that, she talked about the policy, how government can also facilitate this process. I totally agree. When you look at these companies, the private sector that are trying their best to make these solutions available, but then they hike the prices. It's for a reason. The investment costs and many other things, the taxations and other things. So how does government or policy come in with subsidies, for example, to help these private companies and reduce the cost of these energy sources so that they can be accessed by the refugees at a low cost? That is something. But also in addition to the gaps Irene talks about, the private sector still needs to do some work. First, what we've been talking about, involvement of the community, involvement of the people who are benefiting, who are going to buy these products. There is need for a thorough market research by this private sector, reach on ground, look at the needs participatorily with the people, identify what type of energy sources are suitable for a certain community, okay, and then come up with solutions together with the community, and that one facilitates ownership. After that, try to do capacity building. This is lacking for most of the private sector. They bring their innovations. They are not known to anybody in the communities, and the uptake is low. So do the capacity building, do the training of these technologies so that people understand them, so that people can trust them. You know, the other hindrance is that people will not trust a new technology that has come in.
Right.
They will not trust these briquettes that you're bringing them. Say, for me to prepare my beans, it has to be charcoal, it has to be firewood. These briquettes will take long to light. Yeah, there's a lot of politics around there also.
Of course.
With the sellers of charcoal also decampaigning the briquettes and all that. So, but we need these private companies to come up and test these solutions. I'm glad the Ministry of Energy is coming in to standardize these products, the energy products. KRC is already in partnership with the Ministry of Energy to standardize our briquettes. You know, what should an ideal briquette be like? What is its efficiency? Because we've had complaints where briquettes are not lighting, they are slow, you know, they are light. So how are you going to convince the people to actually trust the technology? So there's a lot to be done in that line.
Wow. Yeah. And Solomon, you know, still on the topic of private sector actors and the partnerships and collaboration, you mentioned that for the improved stoves that you had mentioned, the ones that use briquettes, you partnered with a private sector actor to do the production. Also on a more community level, you have those partnerships with the charcoal sellers, etc. What do you think has been the main driver of success for that partnership between your organization and the private sector actors? Or what have been the challenges, what have been the successes? What do you think would speak to that?
Maybe I start with the challenges. You see, like with the refugees or refugee-led initiatives, we have faced a number of challenges. One, we have been considered as beneficiaries. And we are considered as if we lack capacity, because in most cases, when you hear refugees, they need empowerment, they lack capacities or what. But I want to assure you, the countries where we come from, we have schools, we're educated. So it's just a transition. See, it's like here in Uganda, if the war broke up like today, you cross to another country. You either, if the war has found you here, all your academic papers, you are going to leave them home because you have not moved with them. But doesn't mean your knowledge is on the papers you got. The knowledge is within you. Yeah. But when we come here, they assume we never went to school, we don't understand. So we cannot suggest anything. So it's a challenge. So even in asking for funding, they say these people cannot manage to do what? To use the funding, which is not okay. So you come and do things for us. Then we don't accept the what? For me, some years back, there is an organization came to Chaka. They started planting street solars, whatever, even lighting where there are water points. We don't know where the people who are doing the carrying of metals came from. But after the installation, these people went. Their project never lasted for even 2 months. So people started doing what? Vandalizing the what? The items. And who is there to defend? People are not involved. You don't know where these people came from. So not involving us, or maybe seeing us refugees as inferiors, it is making most of the solutions not working. As she's saying, she's promoting for what? Direct funding of refugee-led organizations. It is very evident that refugee-led organizations are doing much great work. If I tell you the history of Living Green, we have the biggest tree nursery in Chaka too, even Chegegwa. Now, where did the funding come? UNHCR under the Youth Initiative Fund in 2017, they gave us only $10,000. No one else has given us money. But if you go and see our nursery, up to now, how many years? It is still the largest. Huh? So meaning we can use the little resources available. Yes. So if we talk of the energy resource center we are managing, we just got knowledge from Adapt Plus. When they come to do some briquettes and whatever, we befriend their engineers who now started training us. So in the training, we got the what?
The knowledge.
Yeah, but now using that we have the problem is with us and we are in the community, whatever solution we come up with, it is being taken. So what we are limited with is the what? The support. Please see us as also a problem what? Solvers. Let's be supported. For example, Living Green, during the Global Refugee Forum, we said now, for us to tackle that, we are pledging that our organization is going to spearhead the planting of 1.5 million trees. But we need to be supported. Are you seeing? So we are looking for support. People have not yet come. Uganda, the Ugandan refugees said we are going to plant 7.5 million. But we can't do it without the support. We don't own land, meaning government has to allocate us land where we are going to plant.
Have you seen any innovative financing mechanisms that are currently being implemented as we wrap up?
Yeah, for example, the financing mechanism is, we are talking of Solco, you are bringing the Solco. You find that the maybe amount to acquire the solar e-cookers may be a little bit higher. So, but if you introduced like pay as you go, it is going to do what? To help. Yeah, it is going to help so that, because as I said, we don't use biomass because we love it. No, it is the only available what? Resource that we can use. So if we have alternatives, we can, even me. If you say you are going to pay it within a period of how many months, when you are meeting, even if it is 50 or 100, because I know the importance.
Thank you so much. We are at time, so I'm going to ask you to just give parting shots in 30 seconds. Irene.
Together, we can end energy poverty within the refugee setting.
Yeah, I don't see energy and climate change wouldn't be a problem if people are united. And if we remove politics in it, we are going to solve it.
Thanks, everyone. Violet?
Energy access is very critical. It touches dimensions of human aspect, environment, climate change, and so we need to act.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that has listened in.
Thank you for joining us on the Refugee Response Lens podcast. To learn more about ULAN's work and find out how you can get involved, visit our website www.ulan-uganda.org. Until next time, keep fostering critical thinking.